So, Jade, if you could choose the sound your car makes, what would you pick?
Like any sound of that ever existed?
Sure.
Um, I the only thing that's popping into my head is the Seinfeld intro theme, so possibly that. Apparently that's what I want my car to make when I turn it on.
Your friends would greet you with joy when they heard you approaching. Well, we'll talk in a few minutes about why picking the sound of your car is now a remote possibility and what that has to do with music. It's Tuesday, April 21st. This is the current music news. I'm Jay.
And I'm Jade, and we've all heard the news. Record stores are not doing well right now. There's been these sort of virtual record store days that have tried to help out, but it doesn't sound like it's actually fulfilling the need that these record stores have. One of those record stores, Amoeba Music. This is a legendary record store, actually 3 record stores in California, and they actually are crowdfunding right now. They said that our stores have weathered many storms, but we don't think we can make it through COVID-19. They said all 3 of our stores have been closed since mid-March, which has been the case with most of these record stores. And they said we're going to be remained closed indefinitely. They don't know when they're going to be back. And so they said there's no way to generate income. We don't have any savings right now. We're kind of blowing through that. So with the bills and rent coming due, it's a really tenuous time for Amoeba. Of course, record stores all across the world are dealing with this. Billboard talked to Duncan Brown. He's of the New England chain Newberry Comics, and it's pretty much the same thing. 28 chain stores all across the nation are now with no cash flow. If you're not generating money, how can you afford your employees to buy stock? Newberry, though, was a little bit more positive. They said that they're discussing lease terms with their landlord. They're trying to be optimistic, and they said, we'll get back on our feet. We're stocking up on protective gear for our employees, and they even quoted Joe Strummer of The Clash by saying, the future is unwritten.
Independent concert venues, including First Avenue in Minneapolis, the Rebel Lounge in Phoenix, and Les Poissons Rouges in New York, these independent concert venues are banding together in a new National Independent Venue Association, NIVA or NIVA. Their goal is, quote, securing financial support to preserve the national ecosystem of independent venues and promoters. 450 venues in 43 states and Washington, D.C. have already joined the alliance, which is an indication of just how dire the situation is for these concert venues who really have no firm idea when they'll be able to safely reopen their doors. According to co-founder Reverend Moose, whose company Marauder runs Independent Venue Week, quote, in addition to going to Capitol Hill to seek funds, NIVA will also offer key survival tools to members by sharing resources, information, and providing guidance on the Small Business Administration's payroll protection program.
There are so many big festivals going on right now. No, not in real life, that are happening virtually. There was a big one last weekend that Lady Gaga co-curated, and now there's one that is specifically to support British musicians, British artists. Linda Perry, Katie Tunstall, several other artists have been named to be part of this virtual festival. It's going to be taking place on Friday, and like I said, it's going to help British musicians affected by the coronavirus pandemic. It's called Locked Down. It's organized by PRS for Music, which is the leading performance rights organization in the UK. And talking about all of these big virtual festivals, there's one that's happening here really soon, tomorrow, Wednesday, April 22nd. It's going to be Jersey for Jersey. We've told you this before. Who's going to be playing? Pretty much every New Jersey person you know, Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi, and it's just been announced that Fountains of Wayne are going to be reuniting. And this is a big deal because they just lost their lead singer and songwriter, Adam Schlesinger, to COVID-19. So I'm sure they're still reeling and trying to deal with that. And at the same time decided that they want to, do his legacy justice by reuniting and performing at this Jersey for Jersey festival. They're going to be joined by Sharon Van Etten. She's going to play bass and do some backing vocals. It should be a nice moment during the concert. Again, that one is happening tomorrow, Wednesday, April 22nd.
Electric cars are quiet. They're so quiet, in fact, that manufacturers are actually required to add artificial sounds to the cars so pedestrians and bicyclists can hear them coming. BMW has become the first automaker to turn to a famous musician to design the sound of their cars. Composer Hans Zimmer, the guy who wrote the music for movies including Gladiator and Inception and the Dark Knight movies, is going to create the sound of the upcoming BMW i4 sedan. So that made us wonder, if you could pick a musician to design the sound of your car, who would you pick? We actually asked the Current's Facebook fans to weigh in just this morning. No surprise, Brian Eno came up. So did the late Frank Zappa.
That would be wild. Yeah, I can see that.
I can only imagine, right? So did the name of Trent Reznor. He's the Nine Inch Nails frontman who's scored films like The Social Network and Gone Girl with his collaborator Atticus Ross. Lisa Devine named another pop star turned film composer, Oingo Boingo's Danny Elfman.
I was waiting for that one.
Yeah. Of the original Batman movie from the 80s, or the 80s version. Tori Elliott Boomsma named the rock group The Cars. Kind of an obvious choice there, even though she added, I really can't stand them. Well, and Tony Caval picked Gary Newman, who's the artist behind the 1979 single Cars. Other people said that if they could pick the sound of their car, though, they already know what they'd want. They don't need to get someone to compose the sound of it. Laurie Haddad wants, quote, the sound Fred Flintstone's feet make as he's starting his car. And apparently a fellow Hanna-Barbera fan, Matt Davidson, said, it's time the sound of the Jetsons car was heard again. And Cynthia Burton-Cheslock wrote, I'd like the coconuts from Monty Python. That's today's music news. We'll be back with another update, so like and follow us. You can be sure to catch it. In the meantime, listen to The Current on the radio, on our web stream, on our app, on your smart speaker. And click on the comments to let us know what music news stories are meaningful to you right now.
And we'll leave you with some music live from Ixtapa, Mexico. The Current's Bill DeVille hung out with Rodrigo y Gabriela from their home, and the band said that they have been spending their downtime going back and listening to old music of theirs, which is something that they never do because they're usually too busy creating new music or going on tour. So they went back and from their first album played us a live version of Diablo Rojo.